How do you feel about rejection? I don't like rejection. Do you like rejection? Well, dealing with rejection when you're a small business owner is one of the hard things that most of us don't want to face. Hi, this is Randy Kirk. You've come to Small Business Daily, and today we're going to be talking about more hard things in small business. We spent the last 2 days talking about a lot of these hard things, but as I've mentioned the last couple of days, there are 29 that I've identified so far, hard things that many small business owners don't want to deal with. They don't want to learn more about it. They don't want to overcome it. They don't want to even recognize it. It's like, no, I don't even want to think about it. So I'm not even going to identify the fact that it's a hard thing for me. And these hard things get in the way of success. They contribute to failure. They make it harder to actually get ahead. And every one of us, including me, has hard things that they haven't dealt with yet that they could deal with and that would help their business to become more successful. So today we're going to, by the way, check out the last 2 days. Over the last 2 days, we've talked about such things as marketing. People don't like to market. They don't understand marketing. They don't want to advertise. They don't understand how to advertise. They don't understand where to advertise or how they're going to advertise. We talked about selling. There's 6 videos at the very beginning of this entire new program, Small Business Daily, on selling. People don't like to negotiate. They don't want to beat up their suppliers for better prices. So those are some of the things we've talked about the last 2 days. You might want to go back and look at those to learn about more of these hard things. But today, we're going to talk about a very big human condition. None of us like to deal with rejection. Do you like rejection? I just asked that question a few minutes ago. If this subject matter appeals to you, maybe you hate the subject matter, but maybe overcoming the sensation of feeling rejected would be something you'd like to be able to do. Push the like button and then also subscribe and then push notify so that we can notify you about future programs that will benefit your company. Okay, rejection. We all hate it. Listen, I can't imagine there's a human being on the planet that goes, oh yeah, what I want is rejection. So let's just face the fact that you hate rejection, I hate rejection, we all hate rejection. Now though, is it going to get in the way of our success? Is it going to be something that causes us to not do things for fear of rejection? This is where we get stopped in business. So whether it's selling, whether it is negotiating and trying to get better prices, whether it is hiring, whether it's dealing with employee problems, many of us like to be liked. We're people pleasers, or we want to be liked by everybody. I certainly fall in this category of a people pleaser, or someone who wants to be liked. That is me all over the place. But it's possible to want to be liked and to still be willing to deal with rejection, or in other words, to take the risks associated with being rejected. I ran across this one a while back. I ran into it like 3 times in a few days in some movies and things. And I thought, it's kind of a great idea. And this idea was, oh, if I fear anything, I'm afraid to go do this, why not just buck myself up for 20 seconds or for 2 minutes? Take time. How long am I going to need to cause myself to run into the fire? Do I need to run into it for 2 minutes or 5 minutes? Okay, I'm going to isolate that time and say, okay, I'm willing to take the rejection for this 5 minutes or this 3 minutes, or maybe it's an hour. I thought it was quite a good idea, is to just say, I can do it for that amount of time. So that's one idea. What else about rejection? Well, rejection can't really hurt you or kill you. There's a lot of things in life that we do that somehow in the back of our head, the back of our mind, we're saying, oh, that's going to hurt me or kill me. We have fear of the future. We have fear of certain things happening in the future. We have regrets and horrible complaints and unhappinesses and stuff about the past. And we waste some time on these old problems that we don't allow them to go away. And we have problems with these future events that we don't even know what's going to happen. Well, it's been famously said that you can't know the future. And so projecting into the future about the possibility of you being rejected is silliness. When you're going into that circumstance, even if you expect rejection, you could find out that you actually get great acceptance. You could find that there was no rejection after all. You could find that the meeting gets canceled. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that the rejection that you're fearing doesn't happen. So the first idea is to get over the idea that you should be fearful at all about some future event, even if you think the most likely outcome is, in this case, rejection. So that's one way to lower the temperature, lower the anticipation about the rejection, is just to recognize you don't know what's going to happen. How can you possibly know? Certainly it's been true for you. You have walked into circumstances and situations where you thought you knew the outcome, and it turned out to be completely different, either positively or negatively, than anything that you thought could happen in that situation or circumstance that you were facing. So with rejection, fearing it before it happens would be a waste, basically, of emotional energy and of your time. So what about general rejection? I'm going to do a video soon about networking. When we walk into a cold room, okay, and there's 50, 75, 100 people in that room that we don't know, one of the reasons it's hard to walk up and start talking to people in that room is fear of rejection. But those people in the room are exactly the same as you. They're in a cold room. they're fearing rejection. It's basically just that 20-second deal. Walk up and get involved in the conversation. They're not going to reject you. You may feel rejected, but they're not rejecting you. They're not even thinking about you. They're just going, oh, here's another person that wants to join the conversation. The idea, when somebody walks into a group that you're already in, you're already talking to somebody else or two other people, and another person joins the group, do you feel rejection toward them? Of course you don't. So no, those people are not going to feel like, oh, why did you join our group? They're just not going to do that. So sometimes our ideas about rejection are just, okay, silliness. I'm sorry I said it. It's just not true. So fearing rejection is one of the things that gets in the way of us becoming successful, because we're then unwilling to enter into certain environments or certain circumstances, go out and sell, make cold calls, knock on cold calls in terms of knocking doors, even making follow-up calls. That's another one that's on the list. I actually separated it out. So let's talk about that for a minute. Why do you fear making a follow-up call? You've established the relationship. You've made the presentation. You know pretty much what you felt the feelings were from the customer or the potential client, the prospect, when you made the presentation. You may have had some emails back and forth since then. Now you're going to pick up the phone to call to see if they're ready to place the order, and you fear rejection. You feel you might be rejected. They might say no. Well, okay. All of the things I've just said were true about this. Let's add one more. If they reject your product or your service, they're not rejecting you. And they may be rejecting your product or service for today. And even if they reject it and they say, no, I'm not ready to buy, they're going to buy somebody else's stuff. That doesn't mean they've rejected you forever. I've had many, many clients and many, many prospects over the years who've rejected my product or my services for weeks or months or years, and then finally purchased from me and became great clients because I was persistent. So rejection and this business of being rejected in a networking situation, you need to network. In this environment, in today's world, you need to network. And in this world, and if you're in business for yourself, you need to be putting yourself in places where there's the possibility of rejection. And I've only given you a snippet, but there's entire books in terms of how to build self-confidence, how to win friends and influence people, a famous one. So that's all we're going to talk about in terms of rejection right now. But then the next one came up just a second ago, persistence. Maybe you're not very persistent. Maybe you're the kind of person who says, you know what, this ain't working, I'm out. The number, I can't put it on the list, but sometimes I think it's number one. Sometimes I think the number one thing that differentiates the real successes in business from the folks who absolutely fail in the first year or first 5 years, the number one thing sometimes is just persisting. Now, you don't want to persist doing something that is an obvious failure. It just makes no sense. So there is a time to cut bait, but many, many people cut bait way before they should have. How do you know? Well, let's start with what I just said. Sometimes it's really obvious. If it's not really obvious, then maybe it's time, to bring in some outside help, bring in some outside consultancy, bring in some friends in business, join a mastermind group, do something in order to get some additional input into whether or not this project is at its end. Quite frankly, I'm going to just get real transparent with you. Our mastermind organization that we started 3.5 years ago was doing great until COVID. And then when we took it online and had to do it in a Zoom environment, it was much harder and we were having difficulties getting it to work. So we hired a company to get us leads. And even that wasn't working. We were getting the leads, but we weren't getting the conversions. So we were going, again, I'm telling you what I just did as an example. So you can see it's not about you. It's not about me. We all do it. I didn't bring in any outside consultants, but then by chance, I ended up in a situation where we had a consultant in the room. We had a consultant in the Zoom room, and we started talking about, and we started brainstorming about what was going on with masterminds in this Zoom environment. And out of that hour and a half, we got so many ideas and so many ways that we want to change the mastermind situation now and also change the way we handle our leads and our prospects. We think that this is going to make a big difference. So that outside consultant, that outside help, that masterminding is so critical, and we avoid it. Many small business owners avoid it because we think of ourselves as independent thinkers. We think that we don't need that outside help. We're afraid to ask for it. We're afraid it'll cost too much. There's all kinds of reasons why we don't do it. It's a hard thing to go outside of your company or outside of your environment in order to get that help. But believe me, it's worth it. I've done it my entire career. I've always gone outside. I don't know why I didn't in this particular case, but I was wrong not to. And I'm saying to you, go get outside help to help you to see. Basically, it's third-party disinterested observation. That's what I call it. When you go to a therapist, that's a third-party disinterested. They basically shouldn't care about your life. They care about your emotional condition, but not about your life. When you get third-party disinterested people involved, they don't care. They care about you. How do I say this the right way? They care about you, but they don't care about you the way that your employees do, or your spouse does, or your banker does, who are always going to couch their observations based on being intimate with you already, understanding you at a certain level. When it's an third party disinterested, they're able to be more honest, more frank, more straightforward, to think more clearly about how you might handle your issues. So this is a very important one, is getting outside help to get you to be more persistent, outside help to get you to be a better negotiator, outside help to help you with advertising or sales or marketing. Get the outside help that you need that's going to be the third party that can bring in new ideas and inject more honesty into the conversation. So these are some of the hard things that we deal with business. Got one more for you today, and that is counting things. Counting things. I have had hundreds of clients in the bicycle retail world. I have been writing books for bicycle retailers for the last 40 years. I've written all the books that have ever been written about bicycle retailing. Therefore, I've written the very best book and the very worst book that have ever been written about bicycle retailing. Anyway, I know bicycle retail really, really well. Over and over and over, I have suggested to my bicycle retailer clients, and in my books, I've said, put a counter at your front door. They're cheap. They're like $39. They take nothing to install. These are bicycle mechanics. They should be able to install this counter really easily. Some of them are Wi-Fi right into your computer, and they do all this cool technical stuff by time of day and by day of the week and by same day last week. And I mean, you can really get some great count stuff going on with these counters. I don't think I've convinced anybody to ever go buy that counter. I'm a salesman. I don't think I've convinced one person. For some reason, business owners don't think it's important to count. Let me give you another example. I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of businesses in my consulting practice and through masterminds, where I've really gotten to know them extremely well. And they spend money on advertising. They spend money on promotion. They spend money on, people come in the door and say, hey, you ought to sign up for this yellow page. Not anymore. They said, you ought to sign up for this opportunity down for the golf course. We're having some kind of a golf competition, and you can be a sponsor. Little leagues, they $100 here, $500 there, $1,000 here, $10,000 there, social media, but they don't count any of the results. Let's take the simple one, Google My Business, which is the most important thing you can do on the internet. There's nothing more important on the internet, and it's free. If you're not doing Google My Business right, you're really messing up. Can I say that again? It's not a hard thing. It should be on my list, I guess. But there's only 3 people in the top rankings for Google My Business. They get all the business for your neighborhood, all the business for your location. I have some videos back. I think it's back in the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks that we started doing this show about Google My Business and how to rank higher on Google My Business. This is important stuff, okay? But once you're starting to think about Google My Business and spend time developing Google My Business, or you spend some money on Yelp, or you spend some money elsewhere on the internet, and the phone rings, and you don't ask the question, how did you find me? Then you don't know whether your stuff's working or not. If you're not counting what's working, then you don't know what to continue to spend time, energy, resources on. So counting becomes incredibly important. Accounting, which has got the same word in it somehow, accounting and counting is all about the business of analyzing the data that's going through your enterprise and being able to make good decisions from that data. If you don't know how many people are going to come in on Mondays, and you haven't even looked really to see how your cash register receipts are on Monday compared to Tuesday compared to Wednesday, then you wouldn't know whether maybe you should do shorter hours on Monday, or whether you should employ less people on Monday, or whether you should do some kind of motivating thing to get more people in the door on Monday, like in the restaurant business. Anytime I've had a consultancy with a restaurant, it's always been about how do we get more people in the door on Monday and Tuesday. So counting, it's a hard thing. It takes some effort. It takes some thinking. It may take a couple of purchases to get counts. But if you're not doing that hard thing, you're hurting your business. You are making less money because you didn't spend 10 hours trying to figure out how to count better and then be able to analyze that count. All right, I promised, I don't think I ever promised this today, but I've done it the last 2 days. I'm gonna give you a free copy in the galleys. It's not even finished yet. My book on doing the hard things. and it's got 29 of these things. We talked about 4 or 5 of them 2 days ago. We talked about another 4 or 5 yesterday. We've talked about 3 or 4 today, but there's 29 total on the list. I'm going to send it to you for free. Yeah, in the galleys, before anybody else gets to see it. Just send me an email, randykirk77@gmail, and I'll send you back a copy of Doing the Hard Things. Anyway, tomorrow we're going to do networking in detail. I'm going to talk about how to network, what kind of groups you might want to join, online networking. We're going to talk about all that tomorrow. So this is Randy Kirk at Small Business Daily, and I'll see you tomorrow.